How would you like to reverse your biological age? Okay, then, I thought so. You're going to want to tune in. This episode is magical, beyond belief, and I will tell you right up front, my guest today is going to blow you away. Now, stay tuned with me, because neuroscience has shown that 95% of our life experiences are shaped by unconscious programs. We'll unpack that during the show. Dr. Olga Stevko is from Russia, can you tell? She's created a unique and powerful methodology that allows her to identify and transform unconscious programs, which are basically running in the background for you and I, which are caused by stressful life events and trauma, including, get this, trauma passed down genetically as transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. These programs influence how people perceive themselves, others, and the world around them, and also affect nervous system responses that impact both body and mind. And this phenomenon creates a wide variety of physiological, physical, mental, and emotional conditions, from insomnia and anxiety to health issues, premature aging, and struggles with communication. Transforming unconscious programs will change how the nervous system reacts to everything that triggers fight, flight, and freeze responses, and how people look, think, feel, act, and behave. That's quite a lot. This methodology is extraordinarily effective and produces fast, permanent, and life-changing results. And I was no more surprised than any of you might be to uncover and unpack some of the things in this episode. Cannot wait to dive into this with you. And stay tuned to the end, because you'll hear what's about to happen later. Hey, this is Debra Atkinson, and there is one thing you can't do in the gym at your age, and that's get all the protein that you need. You've got to do that in the kitchen. To make it easy for myself, not only to get the protein, but the fiber, the fruits and vegetables I want daily, I started drinking a smoothie a day 30 years ago. But when I realized all the junk, the sugar, and the extras that you don't want, that I don't want, hiding in most protein powders, that's when I finally caved in after years of saying, I will never, ever, ever sell supplements. Stop skipping, skimping, and sabotaging yourself in the morning after workouts by always being prepared. Look, yep, I agree, real food first, but it's just not convenient to carry a turkey sandwich. Sometimes the protein and, don't forget the fiber, they kill cravings and they boost satiety, and you've got to make it easy to do the right thing. You can use code PODCAST for 10% off your first order at flipping50.com today. I'm Debra Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50. I started this podcast over a decade ago to answer questions about fitness in menopause and beyond before you knew to ask them. The goal to help accelerate your results with science and the practical application of proven protocols while living your best life. There's no more powerful health influencer in the world than a midlife woman. And it's not just about you, but the 3 generations that you influence. My unique 40-year career, including being a university senior lecturer in kinesiology, an industry subject matter expert, and an international speaker, to founder of the first and the only exclusively made for menopause and beyond fitness membership in the world. Every week I interview experts behind the scenes and the science of optimal hormone balancing fitness and longevity, and share answers to our community's questions so you can have the vitality and the energy that you want, need, and deserve. Dr. Olga, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me for your podcast. I'm very excited to be here.
And we should just be totally transparent. We got all the hard stuff out of the way, right? So neither one of us, you should know, listeners, are very technical. We just expect we click buttons and things work, and they were not. And we did not put it down. So we stayed here. We took one for the team, and we are here to talk to you. And importantly, about this topic that is not typical. So I think you're going to find that it's an atypical way to approach what might be a hidden problem, and a reason why you're not quite getting where you want or what you want, and a new and kind of a fresh perspective. So first of all, Dr. Olga, I would like to know, is this what you dreamt about when you were a little girl? Did you know you'd be doing this?
It's very interesting. At the age of 5 years old, I knew it was my dream to become a medical doctor, to help people, to heal people, and I did.
Very impressive. I have to tell you that 9 times out of 10, I get a no to that, even with medical doctors. So I love that that's true. All right. So, how did you find your way into this particular venue and this platform, this base that you're using to work with your patients?
Even in medical school, I'm a very observant and curious person. Even in medical school, I saw that some patients, group of patients, even similar age group, and similar protocols curing or treating the same health condition, they have different results. Some people did heal fast, some slow, some never healed. And I was thinking, what influences that? And I understood it's your mind. It's your mind about you, about healing, and more specifically, your unconscious mind. And when I researched about that, I found the work of a psychiatrist, Dr. Milton Erickson. He studied unconscious mind and also helped people doing trans work to overcome some serious any kind of issues.
First of all, this is fascinating, and I also feel like this is serendipity. So I've had quite a week in talking to others for the podcast and for an event we have coming up. This keeps coming up, this kind of, storing trauma biologically in our tissues. And we're doing all the tangible things that we as midlife women have learned to do and know to do. I'm conscious of my diet. Maybe I won't say dieting. Maybe we got over that. We've learned it doesn't work. We still will default to it. We're beginning to exercise. I think we're all much more conscious that sleep is so very important, and yet feel like I can check all these boxes. And I indeed am doing what Deborah says is the after 50 fitness formula for women. It's not happening. And I think this is where maybe the first time introspectively we would look and say, what else could it be? We're not looking there first. And do you think there will come a day when we look there first or equally to not just the tangible things, but this is a very intangible teen. I can't touch it. I can't put it on the calendar as a to do. So it's a little bit more challenging for us.
And actually, some people, some scientists, and some medical doctors already are talking about that. And they're using a term trauma. Uh,
Trauma.
yeah.
Mhm.
What I understand now, unconscious programs are forming as a result of stressful life events and trauma, including trauma passed genetically.
That is shocking, right? So basically, if I understand right, correct me, please, if I'm wrong, but you're saying if my mother didn't heal a trauma of hers, she may have passed that on to me. Is this correct?
Absolutely, not only your mother, it can be even coming from several generations ago.
Oh
Now
my God.
there is a scientific evidence that trauma passes genetically. And with my work, working on different issues, what I saw most of the time trauma passes genetically, because some people say, oh, it's a childhood trauma. Of course it is, but why your parents treated you that way? That created childhood trauma because they learn from their parents,
Yeah.
and their parents learn from their parents.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So I also am deducting that it's, you're giving me a responsibility I didn't want, but I actually feel like now, if we were going to take this seriously, each and every one of us who are listening have a responsibility, if we want it to stop here, that we deal with it. Or we get, in my case, I may have already screwed up my son. So I need him to deal with it before he has children. Would this be fair?
absolutely. I would like to let you know, people do the best sources they have. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, some people are so traumatized because of genetic trauma, childhood trauma, they cannot be good parents. You
Hmm.
cannot blame parents whatever they did, because it's for a reason they did it. And what you said is very interesting, Deborah, because I believe when you work on some unconscious programs and resolve trauma created by these programs, it won't pass the same programs into your children when you conceive children.
Love. Okay. I love that. And everybody wants to know how easy. I was going to ask, how hard is this? How easy can this be? It seems hard. It seems I can't touch it. I can't see it. Like I can't go get it with a vacuum cleaner. How do I get at this?
Actually, with the methodology that I created, it's very easy for people. It's pretty much an effortless process for me, possible to identify what unconscious patterns and programs cause some issues. And I do it by observing people's face, by observing neurologs, posture, analyzing the quality of voice, all characteristics, and verbal patterns, language patterns, and non-verbal. Also, I asked to do some mechanical drawings. In all of that, I will see unconscious patterns and can identify unconscious programs. And I created the process I guide my clients through, and it's a multi-step process. At the end of that process, that unconscious program will be transformed permanently. And whatever that unconscious program created will be resolved fast, permanently. No other things to do, no techniques, no exercise. There is no suffering to recall memories and relieve traumatic memories. Because what I do, you do not need to recall memories. And what I do, your unconscious mind will be doing most of the work. And why it works so fast? Because your unconscious mind will be working on all groups of memories that created that trauma. All.
Very cool. I want to come back to this term
Mhm.
because I read it in your bio. We've talked about it a couple of times. Let's just keep unpacking this. I want to make sure that listeners really grasp this. Unconscious programs. Like, is that our unique operating system or our belief system? And just because we believe it doesn't make it true.
Barbara, beliefs are just small fractions of much deeper unconscious programs. One unconscious program can consist even of many beliefs.
Help us to understand that even better. Unconscious programs. How are we impacted by that?
It's a significant impact. Neuroscience shows that 95% of our entire life experience are shaped by our unconscious programs. And it's everything, like in us, physically, physiologically, emotionally, mentally. Programs can influence that all significantly. And all our life, our even behavior, even reaction, even perception. And let's talk briefly about perception. Some people have no idea how significant perception is. Perception is how, with all of our senses, see, hear, feel, taste, smell, we perceive the reality. And people think they perceive the reality how it is, and it's not. Our perception of reality, it is through filters of our unconscious programs, because there can be several people, the reality is the same. And some people will respond and react to the same reality with neutral state, some with fear state, some with anger state, being in the same reality. Why? Because different people have different unconscious programs, and these unconscious programs can create genes expression and reactions, physical, emotional, according to what unconscious programs that are. And that can affect actually even aging. Now there is a scientific evidence that shows that stress reactions are linked to fast aging.
Accelerated aging.
It's one of paths of aging. That perception will create flight, fight, or freeze response, because how we are perceiving in our thoughts and physically. And
Mhm.
I think it's all cognitive, mostly it's unconscious, because our perception is to survive, is to learn what is an environment and adapt to that. It's all unconscious. It's all influenced by our unconscious programs. As an example, I had one client and I video recorded that webinar. It was so significant for me. And he worked on anti-aging. And I asked him to record his video before our work and after, only after 3 or 4 sessions. And it was 90 days after his first video. He described himself as being so old and having poor memory, poor cognition, not much energy, and looking very old, because I showed that video of him during that webinar. Triple eye bags, and 90 days after, pretty much eye bags almost was gone. Memory was very good, cognition very good, physical strength, and he looked 15 years younger. Course his age working on his unconscious programs, it changed most things in his perception, and as a result his reaction, not reacting to the same people and stressful situations, being neutral. As a result, like biochemistry shifted, even his C-reactive protein in blood became normal.
For listeners, so markers of inflammation improved.
Yes.
Phenomenal. So, can I give you another example or two and just let me know if this is an example of a reality? So, if we say put 5 different people in a room with a dog, is this an example of the reaction response based on unconscious programming?
It depends if all of them dog lovers, in this
Right.
reaction will be the same. But
Right.
there will be somebody who has a fear of got bitten by a dog, it
Mhm.
will create a stress reaction, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And likewise, because it's very relevant, we have 5 people who walk into a gym for the first time. Someone's excited, someone's intimidated, someone recalls embarrassment or shame of being picked last in junior high volleyball. I mean, another example of that's they're not trying to, it's just unconscious programming, and they may not even recall the memory.
Or people cannot recall genetic memories themselves.
Of course, yeah. Right.
And it can be a very peaceful situation. only if there are some sounds or that situation will remind unresolved genetic or childhood trauma. For example, open space, open field, and genetically there was a war in the open space. Can trigger to autonomic nervous system to react with stress reaction, even it's a peaceful scene.
Okay, wait a minute. So are you saying it's genetic from a generation or it's energetically from the space, not necessarily passed on by a person or genetics? Is it the space?
Whatever you see, hear, feel,
Yeah.
create perception in you of that space.
Mhm.
Because of some unconscious programs, if something happened genetically, even up to several generations ago,
Mm.
these programs can create that stress response because of what happened. For example, if it's an open field and genetically your ancestors experience being in the open field, but it was a war in that open field.
Mm.
Right now, it's a peaceful open field, but it can create that trigger.
Mhm.
Conscious mind can say, let's be careful because 2 generations ago, in the open field, bad things happen. And in this case, your genes can express for that, and you can have a stress response as your ancestor during that war.
Very interesting. Okay, so unconscious programs accelerate aging. This is not good news. Anything accelerating aging is not good news, but I do want to talk about the client and the example of before and of after. Is that a typical timeline? Because everyone, they want results yesterday. How fast could someone experience reversing biological age after they transform and change some of that unconscious programming?
Very fast.
Good answer.
Even 2 or 3 weeks, there can be results. And interestingly enough, Deborah, when I work directly on anti-aging, people wanted to feel and look and act younger. I worked on specific unconscious programs, and sometimes I did not work on that, but working on some major issue. You are resolving trauma working on the unconscious programs that created these issues. In this case, it is as a benefit. Not only people resolve issues, they start look and feeling younger. And it's not only how you look. For most of my clients, their wrinkles were diminished or gone. And also memory cognition improved. And also even vision improved. And some of my clients did not need glasses anymore, even being after 50, looking
Yeah.
far or looking close. Even I had a client, she did use hearing aids every day. She could not hear without. After our work, she did not need it. Her hearing dramatically improved. All of that.
Wonderful. Okay, I want to give you a very tangible example of a question. So, let's say a lot of the women here are, if they're still working, often they're at the top of their game. They work their way up the ranks and they've been promoted and maybe they're entrepreneurs or CEOs or higher level managers. There's some significant stress with each of those positions and it gets to be, I think, that we can see it coming. So maybe we're not as triggered acutely, but I do think we're all kind of triggered chronically. And I do think that also contributes to aging, to looking a little bit more haggard. How much could someone potentially come to you and say, is this a viable way to work with you? Or might be the impetus for me to work with you? And will we uncover other things as I'm doing that?
Such a good question because many people at work, they feel under pressure and
Yes.
overwhelmed. It's too intense. And interestingly enough, it is because of some unconscious programs created. Because some people, their nervous system becoming over like stimulated, and too much triggers, they create that kind of a response and feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed. work on these unconscious programs, it won't be a case. I had some senior executive working for some big companies, and
Yeah.
they barely could handle what was going on at work. And
Hmm.
some unconscious programs, they describe almost as a superhuman. Now they can handle whatever is going on. They don't react the same to
Hmm.
stress. They don't feel overwhelmed. And they became so productive. What they could not do in, for example, 1 week, they can do in 1 day now.
I'll have what she's having. Yes. And I love that for anybody who's listening who's not still at work, I think we're also equally talking about any overwhelm. So if you are right now, you are a caregiver outside of your home as well as maybe inside of your home, because we all know this happens, and you've still got young adult kids maybe still leaning on you. Some of you probably have school age kids still at home, and you might be caught in this middle of life situation that will always be there. I think we always thought baby boomers were the sandwich generation, but every generation that comes through 40 to 60 will be that sandwich. So, yeah, so relevant for every listener here for any number of reasons. Can you talk any specifics about modalities or techniques or tactics that we could use to slow our aging? The biological aging, of course. We're going to have birthdays, right?
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about that. Actually, number one, it's the fastest permanent, bringing permanent results. It is working on the unconscious program that creates stress reaction. If you won't do that, the amazing things you can still do to release your stress that promotes fast aging. And very briefly, I would like to mention, are you familiar with the Harvard psychologist Ellen Enger?
Ellen Langer, yes.
Enger.
We've interviewed her, yes.
And she did an amazing experiment. She put
Yes.
people into
Mhm,
some surroundings environment that reminded them being 20 years earlier. And in
mhm,
1 week, the results were astonishing for
mhm,
memory, cognition, their physical strength, vision, and hearing. And actually, you can do something similar. First of all, find photos, photographs of yourself younger when you truly enjoyed your life and you felt strong. Put those photos, not just one, several around you. Look at those photos and imagine yourself becoming that person, first of all. And also for people who like to dance, dancing is the best exercise actually and creates endorphins. Dance, like you can turn on your favorite music from younger age and dance to that music because even it can help you to go back to that time and
mhm.
experience yourself being younger.
Interesting. I have to interject right here. So, as we're recording in real time, this is important. So, this will be released a few weeks from now, but just now at the Grammys, Tracy Chapman was on stage with Luke Holmes and performed her 30-year ago song. And then it rose to number one in the charts. But I suspect it is because it took everyone in this generation back to that moment in high school or college when those words resonated and they were not just listening to that song thinking, oh, those were good times. They were in the moment. Do you agree with that?
Yes,
Yeah.
do agree. That's why it's so important even to do the simple things. And also, one of the way to release stress fast, you need to experience relaxation through all of your senses: visual, auditorium, kinesthetic, and gustatory. And what can you do? Everybody has from 3 to 5 minutes. You can find on YouTube some movie like a scenery, what you like, whatever you like, a forest, waterfalls with a relaxing music. Then you will see and hear it. because it's important to do it at the same time. You can have your favorite tea and you can sip its taste and
Mhm.
it will smell. And at the same time, there is a technique to integrate your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. You can bring together your finger at least for 1 or 2 minutes and hold while you are watching that movie. In this case, you're experiencing all of what you see, what you hear, what
Mhm.
you feel, what you
Mhm.
smell, and what you taste. In this case, you can reduce stress very fast.
Love that. Love that. It's so wonderful that you brought up Dr. Ellen Langer's study from the book Counterclockwise. She wrote about that. And then there you are, you bring it up, where you're actually talking about being in the moment and feeling it. Also, it kind of brings up for me meditation and the whole idea that simply sitting cross-legged is actually not meditation as much as can you feel it in your heart? Are you literally feeling this reality right now and getting there sooner?
Yes. Yes, it's very important to do some relaxation techniques and meditation. Only they're like coping mechanism. In order
Mm.
to permanently to resolve stress reaction to certain triggers, you need to work on the unconscious level where it was created. Conscious programs. Also, very briefly, there is in genome biology, and it
Mhm.
was written there that aging is a software design flow, and it was written that all our hardware, as for example computer hardware, it's all organ tissues, for example, and software, it's a DNA information, and that DNA information through genes expression affect our all hardware, including biochemistry, including physiology of certain organs, even anatomy of organs, and other things.
So, so very interesting. Okay. Dr. Olga, thank you. I mean, this has been really very rich, very deep. And yet, even though nothing we could touch, you got there. I mean, you gave us some very tangible things. Where can listeners follow you? Where's the best place to find you?
It's my website, drolga.com. It's an abbreviation DR and my first name Olga.com. And I have a lot of different podcasts and videos when I explain more, and people are talking about dramatic, life-changing permanent results.
Hmm.
It's amazing what kind of results you get when you work with unconscious programs.
I love this. And I so appreciate you being here. So, is there one question? If I missed it, what should I ask you before I let you go?
One question is, can everybody reverse biological age and look younger? And I would like to answer to this question is most people can, who will use certain powerful techniques. And also, like again, the fastest way is to work on the unconscious programs. And even using these techniques, what we are talking about, can even shift certain things within a few weeks.
Amazing. Thank you for listening. To listen to a decade of episodes and to get the show notes, visit flipping50.com, where you'll be able to find all the previous episodes. And I made it super easy to make the most of your listening time and get exactly what you want to listen to as top priority by getting the top 10 episodes in the areas you most care about, like how much protein do you need, weight loss, and other 3 ultra important topics we've identified as our community's top 5. There's no more powerful health influencer in the world than you, midlife women. So go and listen right now. Okay, wow. So we talked about today unconscious programs, exactly what they are, define them, and realize that you kind of have this running in the background. And although she corrected me, reeled me back in, and we're not like computers, obviously, so it's not as easy or as simple as that for me to wrap my brain around the idea that there can be a program running on in the background that keeps my computer from running optimally. I can identify with the fact that that might be happening up here. We also talked about how you and I have the ability to actually compare this to what are our thoughts and how we can kind of input right now with our senses, our eyes, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we taste, all of those senses all at once. If we can plug into them, we can accelerate ourselves to a different time. And by doing that, we can accelerate ourselves to a different energy. So, unpacking quite a bit today and talking about this, I will tease this. When we went off air, the interview was over. She offered me an opportunity to work with her, and already I was thinking about it. So I'm going to work with her, and then I'm going to have her back. And I want to talk about exactly in my head. I know what I want to work on her with, I know what I'd be looking for. However, you heard third that we talked about all of the positive side effects, unlike, say, taking a prescription medicine, which we do for a very specific thing and then has a backlash of potential negative side effects. This has positive side effects and nothing but. And there you have it. Do you have a question for a podcast? A question you would love to ask, or maybe a story you want to tell? Did you know we have a special group just for podcast question roundups and the answers? My community coaches and I provide answers daily inside of this group, but it's also where I go when I occasionally say, okay, open call for podcast questions, or tell your story. Would you like to be a guest? So if you're looking for a community of women who are also interested in optimizing their health, strengthening their mindset, and looking forward to every new year, join the Flipping 50 Insiders group. That's Flipping 50 Insiders on Facebook.